45. Brown, 45. Hot, 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 hot.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, NFL Australia head office, American Football Australia head office, ABC studios, worldwide. We say it every week. We are trending worldwide for some reason. We still don't really know, to be honest. A little bit of a different week. Life gets in the way sometimes, but we've managed to pull it together. Joining me, we're 1 out or 2 out. Bit weird, but we'll run with it. Joining me, as always, in the eastern wing of his Bills Mafia house, at Charlie Pick. How are you, Mr. Pickering?
I'm very well. Excited to talk about what was a pretty exciting round of football. There were some really great games, some tough beats for our teams that we're going to painfully talk about, but also in a lot of the games, some incredible play, and it's that that time in the season that everything is serious. A lot of teams like their futures on the line or seeding is on the line, but also you can see teams' identity coming together, and the football is really good. And some of the quarterback play this week has been just out of this world. We'll get into that, but great week of football.
It is an exciting time of the year, like you said. You get to see, especially some coaches on hot seats and things like that, but there's no hotter seat than the one you're sitting in right now, mate. Are you ready to take Danny Webb's spot?
Oh, I mean, they are some big shoes to fill. Absolutely. I could never look. I'm just a temp here. I'm the Air-Tasker co-host.
What if you do a good job though? You're gonna have to.
Then he's on the hot seat. He is on the hot seat at that point.
You are 100% though. It was an incredible week, and it started all the way back on Friday. We were just talking about it. I was doing gardening because I couldn't sit down and actually watch the game. So I had my headphones in. I had the game on in my pocket. I was listening along. But the Lions did take a big step into securing the NFC North and also the number 1 seed in the NFC. But they did beat my Packers. But they did have a few injury worries along the way.
And it's funny. That might be the story of the Lions this season. When it's all over at the end of the season, it could be one of those years where you go, this team had the best shot they ever had, but there's only so many injuries you can sustain, and that the defensive injuries on the Lions have been adding up all season. Not just like an enormous piece like Hutchinson being out, you can't fully replace, but some other key matchups which really left it open for the Packers, and Jordan Love playing some incredible quarterbacking, but there were some big holes to target there for the Packers.
Danny sent me a message as soon as we finished saying, how do we not beat this second-rate defense? And I sat back and I was like, no one's looking at the fact that Packers had some pretty big injuries as well. Our defense, Jair Alexander, our best defensive player, is out. We lost 2 or 3 players. We had no cornerbacks during the game. So I don't buy into the fact that we were playing a second-rate defense, because I feel like they were playing a second-rate defense too. I've got my Packers hat on, my Packers shirt. I'm ready to fucking go to war.
Yeah.
We were just as beat up on the defense. Yes, Aiden Hutchinson's probably the biggest out of all of them to miss. But it was a offensive shootout, especially the second half. Jordan Love's second half. I always say he's the MVP in the second half no matter what. First half he was slow. We were slow. You could see that we were down 17-7, and then it took 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and we're up 21-17. I don't buy into the fact that we were playing a second-rate defense. We beat up both sides of the ball.
I think that's true, and it's not an excuse for anyone to make. It's more like going forward that the Lions might be the 1 seed. They're most likely they're going to win their division, and they're set up very well for the playoffs, and they've got a great attitude. And Coach Campbell has been aggressive but not crazy. He's made great decisions, like really good decisions on how to use his aggressiveness. But everyone's playing with injuries at this time of year as well.
Absolutely.
There's holes on every team. It just may have a bigger impact later on. And as we know, the play steps up a notch as soon as the playoffs arrive in January. And that's when those holes in defense can really be exposed. I say this with way too much experience from the Bill.
I agree with that point. It was just Danny who was just shitting me when he sent me that message. He was like, fuck you. We had injuries too.
Well, it's good to be able to air that without him here to answer back to it.
Oh, mate, I'm into him. He's fucked today. Don't worry about that. Josh Jacobs did have a day out for us, 3 rushing touchdowns. But one thing that shit me to tears is, although we had those defensive injuries, we held Amon-Ra St. Brown pretty well. I think at one point he had 2 catches for 16 yards pretty late. He got a couple of catches which probably should have been penalties, but that's all right. But Tim Patrick, out of nowhere, he fucking dominates us.
That's right, and he is dangerous. He was making some real catches, some tough plays, and that's the thing that they've got a great offensive coordinator. Goff is playing really good, smart football and making some tight throws. And as you say, you shut down Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that is not easy to do. But the fact that they've got someone to step up with Tim Patrick, who plays pretty much an Amon-Ra St. Brown game, gives you the same stats as Amon-Ra's had, in recent weeks. That is tough to stop with the Lions. And, that's some indication that, you got to pick your poison with their offense. They've got strong running, and now they've just got another receiver that can get 50, 60 yards, can make plays, touchdowns. It's hard to cover. It really is.
Yeah, shit you to tears when you got Amon-Ra covered. You beauty, we're good. Nah, Jameer Gibbs also played pretty well too. Before we move on,
I'm just curious how you can actually physically bring yourself to not watch the game. That's like listening to it in your pocket. I understand that. I don't know how you can not be watching it.
I watched the first half, and that's when we were shit, and I was just like, fuck
right,
sakes, no.
Yeah.
And I had some pressure at home. I had to do the Christmas lights had to start getting put up. I had to cut some trees so that we could see the Christmas lights. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to have it in my pocket, listening along. Anytime there was a big play, don't worry, I had it out. I was watching, but yeah, that's the way I was running it in my pocket. Well, it was frustrating. Otherwise, I'm walking around, I'm kicking the dogs, like it's no good.
I share your Christmas light pressure. That's definitely been a big story at my place this week as well.
Yeah, they're up. Feel free, come past, have a look.
Yeah, do you know what's funny? I'm like, they're up at my place, and look great. And then the other night, going to sleep, and then it's like, actually, can you go and turn the lights off? It's too bright out there. I was like, oh, come on.
The first night, 2:30 in the morning, I got up. I was like, fuck, I forgot the lights.
Yeah.
Your team actually is playing Detroit, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But that just keeps the pressure on them. With you guys having a loss, which we're about to talk about, that's going to be dangerous for the Lions because the Vikings are still red hot on their tail, surprisingly.
That's right. And gravity is yet to come to Sam Darnold. He is just making amazing throws and just playing lights out. Like he's a really good quarterback. It's almost like you'd want to draft that guy in the first round once upon a time. Like he is just playing great football. But there was another stat that I wanted to get to, with regards to the Vikings, and that is Justin Jefferson is the first wide receiver to record 7,000 receiving yards in his first 5 seasons. And I will say that this week there have been some extraordinary performances from wide receivers, and there have been some huge ones this season. But just a reminder that Sam Darnold is playing very well, but he has an absolute freak show of a wide receiver to hit. And Jefferson was getting open, way too open.
Oh, the one where I couldn't tell you who the defender was, but he fell over and Jefferson walked in for a touchdown. That was embarrassing.
So it's but as you say, that is stiff competition. The Lions, look, they can lose games. They're still going to be in the playoffs and there's still going to be trouble, headache for anyone. But if they want that 1 seed in the week off, which, as a depleted, injured team, they need that extra week of rest, probably more than most of the other teams in the NFC. They do have to keep the Vikings at bay. And the Bills, I think, are going to be pretty fired up when they head to Detroit this time around.
And the reason they're going to be pretty fired up is because they have had an absolute classic one of those instant classics. You finish the game, you're like, wow, we're going to be talking about this one for years to come. But they did stumble against the Rams in the game that you've called the game of the week.
Well, the NFL called it the game of the week beforehand. I'm just saying it was officially the game of the week, but I think it lived up to it. And can I say I'm a bit sick of historic games because the Bills have played too many of these instant classics in recent years, but we lose all of them by about 2 points. But this was an extraordinary game, and there were records broken everywhere in this game. The score, 44-42, it was offensively just one of the most entertaining games you'll see. Stafford and Allen both playing just the best, probably arguably the best quarterbacking you'll see in the league this year. And to see it in one game, it's extraordinary. Here are some of the records. The first game in NFL history that both teams have scored 40-plus and not turned the ball over. Leading into this game, teams scoring 6 touchdowns with 0 turnovers were 254-0. No team had ever lost a game scoring 6 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. The Bills now have. What a great record. But there was another record. Josh Allen is the first player in the Super Bowl era to score 3 pass and 3 rushing touchdowns in a game. And he got the highest fantasy score ever with 51.88 fantasy points. And anyone who was trying to scrape through into their fantasy playoffs and came up against Josh Allen this week had absolutely... you might even have had Saquon Barkley on your team and gone, it's all right, I'm going to generate some crazy numbers. But Allen had another idea altogether. Also, just got to say, Matt Stafford, 23 of 30 for 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, passer rating of 132.6. His passing was incredible. It was... he's not as mobile as he was earlier in his career, but he showed that he is an elite quarterback and that he can go into these playoffs and play at a level that is required for the Rams to compete across the board. He was fantastic. A few key takeaways from the game, I would say, with a healthy Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Stafford playing the way that he is, the Rams are legit and they are a problem. That NFC West... this was a lot of the talk about the Rams going into this game was if they can just have a good showing against the Bills, then they could take the West. The fact that they beat the Bills, beat them the way that they did, and part of the way they did that was McVay coached the shit out of this. There was pre-snap motion and motion at the snap that was really confusing the Bills' defense. The Bills' defense have been talked up all year, and they were shown to have some big issues after this game. The D-line just is not strong enough. Just absolutely got pushed around by the Rams. But also the second line, like the linebackers and then the secondary, just were confused by what McVay was scheming up. And they were able to, a team that struggled on third downs all year made, I think, all of their, 13-2 or something on third downs. Like they really, that's what did it for them. In the end, though, it came down to a block punt, which the Rams returned for a touchdown. Without that, it would have still been one of the best defensive games of the year, and the Bills would have walked away from it. And there was, I will say, the press conference with Josh Allen afterwards was very telling about him and where the Bills are at. McVay's press conference was great just because he was the happiest man in the world. But compare and contrast the Josh Allen... Josh Allen's literally set a record. He's done something for the second week in a row no quarterback's ever done. And all he talked about in the press conference was how he wasn't good enough and the offense didn't get it done. And compare and contrast that to the Dolphins-Jets game where after the game, Rodgers was basically just trying to pin it on the defense and say that the offense was not responsible. He is never responsible. There's no accountability there. And I just thought it was very telling about what leadership looks like. But it was such an incredible game of football to watch. Shitty one to lose, but, at the same time, just got to see some of the best play for the whole season. And Puka Nacua he is insanely dangerous as a wide receiver. We're talking about Justin Jefferson. Nakua's numbers are going to be pretty close to that, by the time he's 5 seasons in. Without the injuries, his stats would be bananas, but he is really coming back to full strength, and he was just making crazy plays. One catch on the sideline, it just where he kept his toes in, and you literally physically couldn't understand how he could have that much body control to take the catch that he did. And so And he also, I think he ran in a touchdown as well. He's doing rushing. You know, they just schemed it up so well, the Rams. They're actually quite scary. They've got all the tricks that they need.
And my Packers playing the Seahawks. If we get the W and the Rams get the W, they're actually leading, or they'll be equal in the NFC West. So a few weeks ago, we would have said the Rams are cooked out of the playoffs, but they could be the fourth seed in no time, which is, I think, even if they go in with a not a very great record, they're going to be a dangerous side going into the playoffs.
Oh, extremely. They are, people say it a lot, but I would say the Rams, having seen them up close this week, they're the team you don't want to come up against early on. And they can be a problem for anyone, absolutely anyone. And McVay, it was one of the better coached offensive performances I've seen in a while, like what they were doing. Sort of like, like when everyone was talking about the Dolphins last year and what McDaniel was doing with motion, this was like that, but more sophisticated and better and working against a defense that has been hard to trick all year.
Yeah, and it was good to watch. And like you said, it was an instant classic, but you hate being on the wrong side of those instant classics. One thing we spoke about just before we came on, though, and it was true for both of our sides, I've got to learn to stay off the social media as soon as you lose a game like that, I think.
It is absolutely crucial because one of the first things you said when I said, tough beat for the Packers was, and I hate to mention the refs, but there were some bad decisions. And it was the same with the Bills. But I would know about none of them if I wasn't watching clips on social media. Like straight after, they go, look at this false start. That was on a touchdown. We should have won. And it's like, but it's not changing the result. All you're doing is making me feel worse about it. It doesn't help. So I think if you win, get on social media, celebrate. If you lose, you need to go into social media quarantine for a day or two, so you're not watching all of the refereeing decisions. Absolutely.
I can't wait for the clip to come out after this. Charlie Pickering blames social media for NFL's downfall, something like that. It'll be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's get social media out of the game.
Yeah, get rid of it. It's no good for anyone.
What we need.
The Chiefs, they've clinched the AFC West, and I stupidly put up a post and I was rushing at work and I said they clinched the AFC East. That's how good they're going. I had to take it down in embarrassment about 12 hours later. I was like, fuck you, idiot. But they've clinched the AFC West, but they've done it in the most Chiefs way possible, finishing the game, hitting the upright as they kick that field goal to win, to sink the Chargers in it, and another pretty solid output from them.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers have been looking good, but it's got it. I don't know. Psychologically, I reckon it's not great for the Chargers. How close can they come?
Yeah.
And still not beat the Chiefs? And they were good enough on the day to do it. They were playing well enough, and the Chiefs, look, they got the job done. I'm actually I'm a little bit sick of the narrative of they're not a deserving team to be. What are they now? Are they 13-1, 12-1, 13-1, 13-1,
12-1, whatever it is.
But they, but they, this narrative that they don't deserve to be there. No one gives a shit. Like they're just there. They're the one seed at this stage. There's still a chance for the Bills to catch them. They have some tough games coming up. They've got the Browns and the Steelers, who are playing good football, and I think will give them more trouble. And they're still not clicking on offense. They've except for the Bills beating them by 2 scores, they've won everything within 1 score this season. They haven't had a big win. They haven't shown that they can put a team away when they have the opportunity. Things have stayed closer than they should be, or their offense just hasn't been firing enough. Now, Mahomes and Kelsey connected on some important third downs to keep the ball, to stop the Chargers getting the ball back, which helped them get the game in the end. So that connection is improving a little bit, but they're still rickety on their offense. They're still not working offensively. The defense is doing okay. But it has to be said, quite a bit of pressure has been on Matthew Wright, who is the kicker who came in for Butka, who went out, who's on IR. And it's amazing how much pressure is on him to win their games and keep them competitive. He's doing a great job so far, but I wonder if had any nightmares after that win, just where he woke up with that doink going in the other direction in his dreams. It's got to be a matter of time, surely.
Well, they said it's a $5 note, the size of the bill, the post. So either side of that, you hit the wrong side of that $5 note and you're going the wrong way. He actually doesn't take the kickoffs because he doesn't have a super strong leg, which is an interesting play. They have Justin Houston who takes the kickoffs because he's got a stronger leg.
It's fascinating, the situation that they're in. But,
They're
whatever
winning.
So far. The one thing I will say is that the KC O-line is still a bit of a problem for them. Their interior O-line has been very strong for multiple years. I don't think they're as strong this year. And Mahomes got hit 14 times, sacked 3 times in this game. And I think it was like 9 pressures for 3 sacks or something like that. That, come playoff time against proper opposition, is going to make a big difference. And you saw it when the Bills beat them. There was pressure on Mahomes, and it made it very hard for him to do his job. And yes, he can escape the pocket. Yes, he can create. But that's a really hard way to make a living. And against good opposition, as the Bills showed, it's going to end in takeaways. Mahomes has quite a lot of interceptions this year. What is it, 9 or 10 or 11 interceptions this year because he's having to scramble and create out of the pocket. And, he's still arguably the best quarterback of all time, but he's not having the kind of season befitting a reigning champion.
Nah. And it's kind of, the two, arguably the two greatest. It's obviously arguably, you could argue anyone could be the greatest. Mahomes and Rodgers both struggling a little bit this year with their QB plays. Interesting, I think. Me and Danny say it all the time, though. They are winning and they're getting to the playoffs, and they'll play playoffs football when it comes around. So I don't think they're too worried. They're getting W's as they need to. They're trying around a few different things. Yeah, so...
I mean, is that the secret conspiracy theory? Like, is that the conspiracy theory that you could have about the Chiefs, that they're actually experimenting, or they're actually doing an extra practice every week where they're doing all their trick plays and all their good shit that they're saving for the playoffs, the ring of Rosie and all of that? Is that, like, are we at that level of conspiracy theory about the Chiefs that they're actually a lot better than, they're surprised that they've only had one loss because they're not playing... They're not showing their hand yet. They're not stepping up yet for the playoffs. I mean, and you would have to say, you think of what happened last year. They had ordinary form during the season, but they didn't have the wins they've got this year. No. And then come playoff times, they turned it on. I mean, the fact is, they could be getting that 1 seed. They could be waltzing in, and
they've still got Andy Reid as a coach. They're still, Can't buy into all that.
I pity the fool that takes them lightly. Definitely.
100%. Now, a couple of interesting stories that come out over the weekend. And one I've got to put to you, and I think it's almost time that we have to start asking some questions about this. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, arguably, one of the greatest QB wide receiver combos going around. Definitely at the moment, all times up there as well. They're being wasted in Cincinnati. And I think the stick that broke the camel's back might have just fallen over the weekend as Joe Burrow's house was broken into in Cincinnati while he was playing the game. Is it time for them to move on? As a pair, move on. Go find a new home.
So your theory being that he now feels no loyalty to the city of Cincinnati because they broke into his home.
They broke into his house. They don't love him anymore. They want him out.
Yeah, I think there's something in that. I think he would probably give much less of a shit about the break-in than he would about the fact that Cincinnati don't have a defense to do the job on the other side of the ball. Like they've not put together and maintained that defense. They've let talent leave. And also, unless I'm mistaken, Chase has not re-signed. Like, they were unable to get him a contract. He wasn't there for OTAs, mandatories, preseason. Like their start to the season was crappy, but in large part because, Burrow was a bit injured and Chase just wasn't there. If they can't see that they need to pay Jamar Chase and just get it done, then what is keeping Jamar there? I don't know how long. Burrow, I think, is stitched up. He's stitched up with a contract for
Yeah,
a while.
but their contracts are like it's a bit of paper. You just
Yeah.
tear up that bit of paper and you'll walk away.
It's interesting that the question they would have to have, and you think about it, is Burrow and Chase. They were a combo at LSU, so they actually came into the league with chemistry, with experience, with an understanding that normally takes a season or two for an NFL quarterback and their wide receiver to get. So they came in with this competitive advantage. Are they that good? If Chase goes one way and Burrow goes the other, are they necessarily going to get the same level of production? Is one of the things that would keep them in Cincinnati the fact that they played together? That would be, I think that would be a little bit of a motivating factor. Although I'm sure, hearing both of them speak and watching the way they play, Joe Burrow is pretty sure he'll go win wherever he goes, and Jamar Chase will
they're not lacking
catch everything wherever he goes.
They're not lacking confidence, either of them. I do think the combination, and you could say they made a Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl, but they made it. But was that a lot of patchwork? Was that Joey Burrow and Jamar Chase, hiding a lot of their problems that they seem to have, the 2 or 3 years afterwards? So I think if Joey Burrow was to go somewhere, it would have to be with the likes of Jamar Chase actually already being there. Like, he's not going to go somewhere where he's going to have to make that patchwork again. Like, he wants to go somewhere where he knows he's going to win and he's going to know the players and the players that he's going to be running with. So I do think the one way to get Joe Burrow out of Cincinnati is go after Jamar Chase, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's a very good strategy, and there'd be a number of teams that would love to add Joe Burrow. There would be contenders if they added Joe Burrow, and that may be a 2 or 3 year strategy to get that happening. But it has to be said, like the Bengals, the one thing said when Burrow went there as the number one pick, and when Chase went there, a lot of people said it's a cheapskate franchise. They don't actually they don't fund it, and they don't approach it with an absolutely win everything attitude. The ownership kind of is happy for them to be in contention and be good and get on TV enough and get enough primetime games, but they do have a history of just not giving the franchise exactly what it needs.
Well, there was a lot said that the Browns went out and paid Deshaun Watson purely because they knew that the Bengals couldn't afford it. So they thought, we're going to pay overs here for Watson, which is going to put pressure from Joe Burrow on the Bengals, and they won't be able to do it. That is the real problem.
Hasn't history proven that to be the greatest deal of all time?
yeah, exactly right. It's the real issue of being only a 100 millionaire, not a billionaire, really. Like,
that's right. It's pretty tough.
Really fucks you over.
Yeah.
I hate it. I wish I was a billionaire. From one QB, and we've already mentioned him before, actually a couple of times already, to another. I've got a question for you. This is what I was writing down beforehand when I said I need one moment. What do you think Julia Gillard, the iPhone 4, and the song Dynamite by Teo Cruz all have in common?
Hang on. Julia Gillard.
Yep. The iPhone 4.
Four.
And Dynamite by Teo Cruz, if you remember that classic.
I don't know. The last time they were relevant was around 2013. Is it earlier than that?
It is earlier than that, yeah. 2011, 2012. February 2012.
So let me guess. That was the last time. Oh, the last time the Jets made a playoff?
Correct. Julia Gillard was our Prime Minister. The iPhone 4 was the latest iPhone.
That was the little square one. It was a big deal, the iPhone 4. It changed the game. Yeah.
It was. I think it had a button on it.
Yeah, it did have a button, but it was small. I remember just, hang on. What is this?
Yeah. And Dynamite by Teo Cruz was the number one song.
I mean, it's still the number one song on my iPhone, but yeah, that's fine.
In my iPhone 4, anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. 14 straight seasons of the Jets not making the playoffs.
It's and where did it all go wrong for the Jets? It's like, that's the interesting thing. You have to. There are so many things that are deemed as mistakes along the way, that the Jets have made, and it's remarkable that a franchise has made all of those mistakes. But at some point, Surely the answer is just the ownership is hiring bad GMs and it all goes from there. Or is it just they've got a losing culture and they haven't been able to do what I think is the hard work to turn it around? That Salah coming in, you watched that Hard Knocks when Salah came in, and that was when you needed a cultural reset. That's what they needed. And you have a look at the same time, Dan Campbell's coming in at the Lions, I'm pretty sure, because they both did a Hard Knocks, and you have a look at it. Every time Dan Campbell was motivating the team to have grit and do the hard work and start at the bottom and build it brick by brick, he had authenticity, and everyone in the room was listening. And Salah felt like he could have been a motivational speaker at a business convention, at a sales convention. It never had that feeling of actually building a culture. It's hard at first. It's not just, we've got a bunch of picks and let's all get jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
There's really shitty hard work when you're rebuilding from the studs. And, the Lions have done it. The Bills have done it. The Bills were an irrelevancy when McDermott and Bean came to town, and they have done that hard work up from zero. And you look at it, maybe the Jets just haven't done that. Because there's so many other mistakes. They drafted the wrong QB. And then they drafted the wrong QB, and another time they got the wrong QB. But the bottom line is it's a cultural problem. They don't have a winning culture, and they don't have a team culture, and they haven't. And you only build that from zero with everyone actually having to wade through the shit together.
Can you say they got the wrong QB when Sam Darnold is now lighting it up in Minnesota?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, that is. I was thinking more of Zach, but
is it not on him? Could he have lit it up somewhere else if he got an opportunity?
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible. It's you have to say we have proof now that Darnold absolutely has the ability to be a top level, a top 10 quarterback. I mean, his production's been pretty elite this year. He's definitely got the ability to do it. Is that just the experience that he's had enough time to actually be able to play? Is one of the things we need to learn about, rookie quarterbacks is the worst thing you can do is stick them in the game or, and have them get scared and learn that they're bad at football, But maybe it all, I take your point. Darnold, looking back, should have been a win for them.
I feel like you said that the Lions are built from the ground up. Like they went out and got Hutchison, a homegrown, he was the best D-line in the draft, but he was homegrown. He wanted to be there. He wanted to be part of that Lions grit, heard about Dan Campbell being there, all those kind of things, doing bloody burpees with broken arms and shit like that. That's the kind of shit you follow and you're like, I want to be there. It felt like the Jets, and it always feels like the Jets are like, you know what, we'll just pay our way out of this. We'll go buy someone really, really good and bring him in, a la Aaron Rodgers. We'll bring him in, he'll fix it. Instead of going, you know what, let's get someone with a bit of grit. I don't know if there's a former Jets player that was, down and dirty and could get in there and actually players want to play for him and bring that culture back. But it does feel like Johnson just like, nah, you know what? I've got, Sauce Guard and a bling on my chest and I'm going to do the same thing as him and we're just going to party hardy like in the city and live it up and we're just going to pay players a few more dollars to come and want to be here. But I always feel like, and it always happened when I played on football teams, if you pay players an exorbitant amount of money, they're coming for the money. They're not coming because they want to be there.
Yeah, that's right. And even you look at Devontae Adams, like that to me, getting Devontae Adams is the fascinating part of this season with the Jets. Yeah, getting Rodgers in, I think is just a failed experiment across the board. But they backed it up by just going and getting a Devontae Adams, who is a fucking Rolls-Royce wide receiver. But he's not playing for the Jets. Like, he doesn't give a shit about the Jets.
Not one
bit. He kind of likes the idea of catching some passes from Rodgers because it was shitty at the Raiders. And I remember having some good catches at Lambeau. And, I enjoyed the year I was the best receiver going around. But none of it's about team and culture and winning. And you also, you get back to, like getting Rodgers in the first place. They got Rodgers off some bad football at the Packers. But let's say Rodgers was great. Like, let's say Rodgers actually came in and was good and got them contending even just for the AFC East. For how long? A year or two? That's not... And he would go, and then you're actually back where you haven't solved the problem of getting a franchise quarterback that is elite, he's top 5. Just having you had that quarterback means you're in contention, and you've got him for 10 to 15 years because you got him in the draft, you had him for 5 years, and then they become a franchise quarterback that is part of the identity of the team. Look at the success stories in the NFL. That's how it's done. That's the way that it works. And there's a few exceptions. Arguably the best, most magical trade of all time between the Lions and the Rams, where they swap quarterbacks and they both win. That is a freak show trade. And yeah, that took the Rams to a Super Bowl, and as it turns out, have made the Lions a Super Bowl contender. But you got to start with culture. And it's interesting, there is some Belichick news, which we should get to in a moment. But when there was talk about where's Belichick going to go, where once he has a year off and in the media and obviously saves his energy for his extremely young partner, but he can't be working too late. He needs to really look after himself. But there was a lot of talk about where's he going to go, and those conversations came back to, is he the guy that can come into a broken franchise and rebuild the culture from day one? And maybe he's that guy. And that's what the Jets need, is that guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much sign that the ownership knows how to do that.
Nah, they've got.
And it's not as easy. It's not as easy as you think. You look at the Giants, who got Daboll and Shane from the Bills, who were like an assistant coach, or they're like offensive coordinator and assistant GM, who had been part of that rebuild from zero, and they went to the Giants. They tried to do it the right way, and they couldn't. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's a hard market in New York. They want instant success in there, and everyone always says that, but they've got to do it at some point. And
maybe they just need to bite the bullet, go back to being the New Jersey Jets, and take some of that New York pressure off. I think that's what they need to do.
That's it. Hot take right there. All right, we've spoken about this terrible team for way too much. One last thing. I know you've got to go. You're a busy man. We always love having you on. Bill Belichick going to college football. Now, I've wanted to ask someone, this could be huge if he does. He could run his own program and be the next Nick Saban of college football. Someone who barracked for a team that played against him for 17, 20 years, whatever it was, and dominated you the entire time. He's gone out. He's got a 24-year-old girlfriend, I think she is. She's a stunner. And now he's going to go dominate college football. How does that feel being a part of the AFC East, which he was, and you are? Just to watch him, he's just the king of everything, is he not?
Yeah, I mean, it's if he weren't so old, it'd be a midlife crisis.
Could be a midlife crisis.
But there's no crisis for Bill Belichick. I mean, I think the only thing that I like, well, apart from the cheating and also the cheating, and then that time there was the cheating. But apart from that, the only issue I've ever really had with Bill Belichick was he was an extraordinary coach and so hard to beat. And he was doing things that now are commonplace in football. The idea of situational football is he was the master of situational football. And now it's the only way to win football games is to actually to know what to do in those, like in any given situation, and be ready and prepared to do it. I mean, I love the idea of him going to frat parties. I can kind of see it, him and his girlfriend out on the town in college football. But you do have to, there's two things. One, I'm happy for him to be in college ball and not ruining my life somewhere in the NFL. That's a good thing. If he were to take over the Jets and all of a sudden the Jets start winning, then I would hate that. That would be like a ghost coming back to haunt you. But so I do like the idea of him being in college football, but he has the chance to dominate it. But also, one of the biggest problems with the college to NFL pipeline is that college players are coming out and they are shit hot college players, and they can be, Heisman nominees. They can set records. They can win championships, and they literally don't know an NFL level system when they arrive in the league. And you can see so many quarterbacks that aren't at that level, so many cornerbacks who only know man, they don't know how to play zone. Like there's so many ways that players coming out of college aren't ready for the NFL. I think there's an opportunity for Bill Belichick to change the way that, college football is coached. He will have full control over every part of the recruitment, the coaching, everything. It's actually the way he wants to coach.
Yeah, that's it.
And also, Bill Belichick, if you're trying to pick a college where you're going to go, the chance to learn from Bill Belichick, particularly if you're a shit-hot defensive player, I mean, that is what a great, he's going to get recruits early. They're going to be a competitive team straight away with the talent that will want to go and learn from Belichick. And there's a chance that he evolves college football and makes it better. He doesn't just win a bunch of championships and be a Nick Saban. There's a chance he establishes some more professional coaching.
Yeah. Yep. And if I'm a college player and I'm looking at where I want to go and Bill Belichick's the coach, I know that I'm going to be going and partying with his girlfriend, so I'll be going there. There is a rumor that his girlfriend, he doesn't care where he's go that much, that his girlfriend is the one who's going to be picking, do I want to go to UCLA so I can be closer to the beach? I don't really want to go to Alabama. It's down south. There's not much going on down there. Do I go, rumors are the 24-year-old is going to be picking where Bill Belichick goes.
I think there is truth to that. I think if I were Bill Belichick, I would absolutely be trying to keep her happy every step of the way.
Right. Yeah. Hey, we'll go to whatever beach you want. Hey, we'll go there. Sweet.
As long as it's near a pharmacy where I can get my Viagra, I am very happy to go wherever. I think that's absolutely true. I've got to say, I'm loving the I don't give a fuck aspect of Bill Belichick. Is like, yeah, I'm dating a 20-something-year-old. Yeah, I'll say whatever I like. Yeah, I'm gonna get you're the most successful coach of all time. Go enjoy every aspect of what that means.
Yep. So he should. All right, mate. We've spoken about it for too long.
I just forgot one more dig about the Jets that I meant to make before.
Oh, go on. Great way.
This is about a failure. This is why recruiting shit hot talent isn't always the answer. Why culture, you need to get culture right and everything has to be good. I do want to say, and these are very different players and their level of talent, they're on different planets. Damar Hamlin has more interceptions than Sauce Gardner. And Damar Hamlin had a year off after dying in the middle of that.
Yep.
So he has more interceptions than
I've got
Sauce
more
Gardner.
interceptions since I died than you do this year.
That's right. More interceptions since he died than Sauce Gardner has in his entire career.
Just ponder that for a second. Perfect, mate. We won't have you for the preview. You're a busy man doing.
I will miss the preview, and I'll just quick plug because I'm recording the yearly, which is going to be on next Wednesday, 8:30 on the ABC, wrapping up the news of the year, and it's a belter of an episode. Roy Nate Shear popping on to do the year in sport, and it is going to be something special.
I look forward to you plugging us on there as well.
Absolutely, it's a matter of time. It really is a matter of time.
Love your work, mate, and I will speak to you next week.
Good on you. Have a good one. Go Bills.